In a 1992 interview with a French magazine, Charles Cecil stated that he had begun working on a scenario for Revolution's third game. The title would be set in Paris with a Templar storyline. Sean Brennan had suggested to Cecil that Revolution's next game should have far higher production values to make the most of the emerging CD-ROM format in order to beat their American rival adventure game publishers Sierra and LucasArts. Brennan had recently read the Italian writer Umberto Eco's novel Foucault's Pendulum and suggested to Cecil that this ingenious tale about historical conspiracy theories, clandestine societies and lost treasure might provide useful material for an adventure game. Cecil bought a copy of the book, read it, and wanted more. The following month, Cecil visited Paris to research the Templars. After reading The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, he was certain there were enough ideas and lore to the Templars to make them an exciting subject for a game. Cecil, Dave Cummins, and Jonathan Howard began work on the story and design. Cecil and Cummins attended a film writing course, and their script was read by Alan Drury, a senior BBC scriptwriter and dramatist. As Cecil continued his research, he began sketching out the premise of Broken Sword, the tale of George Stobart, an American patent lawyer, and Nicole Collard, a French freelance journalist, who were drawn into a conspiracy relating to the Knights Templar. Naively, the middle of the game was designed first, around the interesting things I discovered around the Templar, says Cecil. It was later on that I designed the intro and the ending. By the time that work completed on Beneath a Steel Sky, Revolution only consisted of 6 people. Cecil needed more staff, especially artists who would be able to create Broken Sword's larger and more ambitious scenery.
Point-and-click adventuring has been with us for a while now, but the latest approach to the genre is showing what's possible just when you think you've seen it all before. Broken Sword lets you play the part of George Stobart, an American tourist in Paris, with nothing to do except work out why a clown would want to kill an old man and steal his ancient manuscript.
And did he say anything to you?
No, he was more interested in the waitress.
Looks aren't everything, but in these days of high-speed 3D polygons, this carefully staged and animated 2D mystery is going its own way.
There's a lot of 3D stuff at the moment. My personal feeling is that you can't generate images in real time fast enough to make them look really good. So we decided to go for the cartoon image instead, which obviously, everything being hand-drawn means that we can get the character across.
Hand-drawn characters mean having to attract plenty of animators from film and television. Strangely enough, the smaller scale of computer games actually offers artists something they don't have at a big studio.
We get more control for a start. There isn't as many people as in an animation studio. So you see the sort of flow right through from the original sketch right to the sort of coloured animation on the screen.
All this colourful presentation hides the fact that your character is about to discover that a very real order of 14th century warriors, called the Knights Templar, are alive and well and doing their best to control today's world through subterfuge and treachery.
In the end will be a beginning. An end to our enemies.
Blended together with the gameplay are hundreds of backgrounds and even more animation, this time full screen. Broken Sword had a whole team of programmers for its complex logic engine, but for every single animation frame, it only had one colorist.
I actually painted 20,000 drawings from start to finish, from scanning to outputting. An everyday person couldn't walk in off the street to paint them. It takes time to get your speed up to do the amount that I actually do.
It's a skilled job, but one which is, yes, you guessed it, done semi-automatically by a computer. Scan the drawings in, assign colours to each area, such as hair and clothing, and the software will try its best to fill in the remaining frames on its own. Whether it's the orchestral score by a respected film composer or the character's dialogue translated into several languages, attention to sound detail, as well as the visuals, has really succeeded in this adventure.
Have you resolved the Templar mystery?
No, not yet. I don't even know what it is I'm after.
This is one that'll certainly make you think without becoming frustrated. So if you've ever wanted a good example of how to combine an intriguing storyline with absorbing gameplay, then this is it.
Revolution artist Steve Innes created initial location sketches for the game before working on Beneath a Steel Sky. He was promoted to producer halfway through the project. Despite releasing the PC version, Virgin was not interested in publishing the game on the PlayStation, feeling that only 3D games would sell for the console. As a result, Cecil contacted Sony Computer Entertainment, who agreed to release the game for the console. In North America, Broken Sword was renamed to Circle of Blood. Cecil was uneasy about the name change, feeling that it gave a wrong impression of what type of game it was. One of Cecil's goals was to depart from the humorous adventure games more popular at the time, such as LucasArts' Monkey Island series, by creating a game with good pacing and a complex storyline, a reason he thought the Knights Templar would be an ideal subject. Unlike LucasArts games, which used a question and answer conversation system, Broken Sword offered conversation icons that would not reveal to the player what the character was about to say. Cecil's intention was to make the game more cinematic, but not resemble interactive movies of that time, as he felt that they were simply mimicking movies. Cecil wanted to create two playable characters who would exchange ideas, helping drive the game along. He made George American and Nico French to appeal to both American and European markets. The team at Revolution had high expectations for Broken Sword, but there was significant competition. Revolution had a team that had created successful adventure games, but believed they needed to utilize the best of other creative industries. Eoghan Cahill and Neil Breen of Dublin's Don Bluth Studios drew the backgrounds in pencil and digitally colored them in Photoshop. The introductory sequence and the main characters were done by animator Mike Burgess, who worked for the Red Rover Animation Studio. The game's graphics were animated in a style resembling classic animated films. Cecil contacted composer Barrington Fellong, who agreed to create the game's score. Around the time of the game's release, Fellong stated, "Virgin would probably have been happy with a main theme and a few cues, but I thought that rather than creating an orchestral score like for a movie, I could make one which interacted with a game. So I wrote over 3 hours of music, which is unique in the genre, including over 400 cues." Revolution had already cast Hazel Ellaby as Nicole Collard, but had trouble finding a voice actor for George Stobart. Hazel, who went to the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in London, suggested her former schoolmate from Guildhall, Rolf Saxon, as George. Broken Sword uses the virtual theatre engine, as do Lure of the Temptress and Beneath a Steel Sky. The game's final development cost was around £1 million. Cecil attributes much of the game's commercial success to Virgin's support, but also the fact that he managed to place the game on Sony's emerging PlayStation console. "I kind of knew a couple of people at Sony and approached them," he recalls. "Virgin told me that the game wouldn't work on PlayStation at all because it was neither 3D nor fast-moving. Sony weren't enormously excited either." Both companies were proven wrong. Broken Sword was a critical and commercial success, selling more than 650,000 copies, a huge number in those days. "It was memorable because it was so unexpected," says Cecil. "Not even Sony thought the game would perform in any way like that."